Big warm welcome to the Resilience in Business and Life in a Changing World. That's our business series for September, and hopefully you're having a nice lunch break and getting away from your Zooms and your work, and hopefully we'll bring a few different aspects to today's show to help you along your way with your business journey and in these challenging times of COVID. Just really interesting, obviously with resilience being a bit of a strong theme in what we're doing. Footy, obviously the big footy season. I was thinking about the Bulldogs too, and it's amazing, winning that game when they had to go from Launceston to Brisbane to Adelaide and now to Perth and all over the place, and to play teams that have been sleeping in their own bed and in their own town. So you think of resilience of that, and then going into quarantine. I don't think they could train on the ground on the Adelaide Oval before they played. Like it is phenomenal how achievement, accomplishment can come under big adversity and even tougher regulations, and even your direct opponent is. It was really interesting to watch. And then SAS comes on the TV. I suppose we're all watching something that can inspire us with resilience, and you've got people jumping out of helicopters and climbing, doing monkey bars across the top of the lake there and holding balance in midair. And you think of, I know the first two episodes, the first one was on ego and, keeping that ego under control. I mean, we always think you've got to have a healthy ego, but I always think don't let it get out of control. You've got to keep it intact there. So, you don't get ahead of yourself and get too complacent, think you're ahead of the game too early. And then the second episode being on courage. Well, I suppose a number of them facing their fears and overcoming their fears and knowing that it's really only that mental block that they've got, and physically they can, actually get through those things. So our mind plays a lot of games with us, but treating it just as a mind and knowing that we really, can do anything we put our efforts into. And then you think of Tim Donahue, who was our guest speaker last week, was talking about Jeff Bezos. And if you haven't got his book, he thinks he's still raving on about it today. It's a magnificent read, but a couple of the key things he said, Tim kept saying his attention to detail. He just went over and over with everyone in his organization, everything he did, quite pedantic about getting the detail right. And if things aren't working right, you make a change. He's just really huge on those 2 points. And the last thing I'll just leave you with today before we get into the show is that listen to Brian Goorjian on the Gold Coast Sports Conference series, which is on at the moment. And I was really intrigued to find out about how he came from 12 years in China, and he'd actually worked with the Boomers team. And it was the first time we've won a medal ever in the Olympics, in the bronze it was, in the, obviously the US and some big European teams are in that comp. But he talked about having Paddy Mills and Joe Ingles as 19-year-olds, and then going away to China for 12 years and coming back and having them as 32-year-olds and the maturity that they'd had. But he focused on those things that, that we're probably used to, but he went in and listened a lot. He had a very experienced group of guys, just about everyone playing NBA basketball, so a pretty star-studded team there. And he just reckons he went into the training camp and really listened. And, he really empowered them, a bit like Parkin taking the 95 Carlton premiership. And, you got a bunch of experienced guys, and they actually were running the plays. They were suggesting the game plan. They set the culture. They set the rules. They set what he called gold standard. He kept using it's gold standard. I think I've heard Stefan Kasakis use that before from our series there, but he went on about that. And the leader group's so important. And Andrew and I know in the Camp Australia days, our senior leader team, we really empowered them, and they really ran the business in the last 4 or 5 years and were incentivized to do so, but really drove the culture and that real buy-in. They had, in a financial sense, but they were fully committed, is what Brian Goorjian was talking about. Every person, if they weren't fully committed, and he said the doctors, the physios, the water boys, whoever it was, if they weren't fully committed, they weren't in. He said they weren't in on the Boomers, and some of them, Thibault and a few of the great NBA players that play, they didn't even know what a boomer. They came and said, "What's a boomer?" They didn't even know, but by the end of it, they said it was the best cultural experience they've ever had in sport. And Brian said the same. Of all the teams he's coached, NBL, overseas, through China, this Boomers team was the best cultured team he'd ever coached. So Yeah, really interesting points. But we're going to run into our show today, and thanks to Phillips Brothers Foundation, Cognercise Foundation, and the Business Benchmark Group, we welcome the Super Boost team. We've got Tommy Phillips, Hawthorn footy player. We've got the Sharon out there, and the mighty Super Boost. They're going to bring to you today. Great to really support our young entrepreneurs and those having a real crack at business as we all started. There's a lot of people on the call that watch this that are also running their own business and they're entrepreneurs. And so we're going to hand over to the boys to tell us a little bit about how they created this brand and what it's about and what they're going to do with it. So welcome, Xavier and Tom.
Beautiful. Thanks, Anne. Appreciate the intro, and thanks everyone for having us. It's a privilege, and we're really looking forward to diving into everything we're doing in relation to Super Boost, which is really exciting for Tom and I. Just wanted to start off by saying how much we've enjoyed the two chats so far during the series, and also learning last year we were in a critical time in our business and took a lot away from these chats. So thank you for that as well, guys. So firstly, just touching on the resilience and life, how much it's changed in the past 18 to 20 months, especially not only for the whole world but also for us, and wanted to provide a little bit of background on myself and Tom to do the same on himself. So firstly, Tom and I have known each other for about 8 years now, coming from a footy background and a footy pathway through those the Oakby Chargers pathways and a few other levels, and we both bonded back then on similar different trajectories. Tommy's obviously playing in the AFL now, and I just wasn't good enough at the time. But from there, developed a strong relationship, and there's a lot of similarities between the two of us, and something I'm very grateful for having him as a mate. And then going up to where we are now, I've always been interested in business and having being that entrepreneurial type personality. I straight out of school started a technology and transport company, which was very interesting, and working with the government for 2 years, and that was as captivating as it could have been. And then through that journey, learned a lot of experiences, and then I'll pass to Tom to chat around his background a bit too.
Yeah, well said, Zav. I think the two images are interesting. We're both in that one on the left, playing for the Chargers. As Zav said, that's where our friendship sort of started about 7 or 8 years ago, playing with each other at that level. Zav probably doesn't give himself enough credit for the athlete that he was. If it wasn't for a few injuries, he'd probably be playing at the elite level himself. So we both had that passion for sport, elite sport at the higher levels. And then another thing that's bonded us as well, especially, has been the image on the right as well, helping the next generation of kids, helping in a social aspect, looking at the world around us, both locally in Melbourne and Australia, but also overseas. We both had a want and ambition to help the next generation of kids, whether that be in underprivileged areas or kids growing up in our own backyard as well. But that sort of takes us to the hardships that we've had with myself more recently, experiencing uncertainty in my footballing future over the last 18 months, and it's been interesting. The timelines have sort of paralleled with themselves a little bit with Super Boost and my employment and career in the AFL, and especially last year relocating to Queensland. As Zav said before, we found these seminars and these discussions really helpful for us over that month period, and a really critical time for us to research, develop, and evolve our product to where it is today, and all through a COVID global pandemic. We pretty much started this right at the start of 2020 and the back end of 2019. And there was a lot of things that have been out of our control, but we've been able to really pull in and focus on the things that have really been in our control, even with times that have been exhausting and have impacted on our relationships around us, family, friends, and different things, and trying to get that work-life balance as well. As young guys, in our mid-20s. So that's really been, it's been a real sort of journey. But I'll let Zav touch on some of his journey as well.
Yeah. So at the sign of this series being about resilience, and everyone has their own stories and going through different things, and trying to battle that. Obviously, we're all going through the pandemic, but we all have individual issues. And myself personally, in the back end of 2019, went through 2 different heart surgeries, which at the time I was working with the government and doing reasonably well in that field, but going through that hardship, it kind of showed me that you've got to be doing what you want to do, and if you care about it, you always find a way to get through it. And that brought Tom and I really close and put us on the trajectory that we're on now. And those type of hardships and experiences I went through, and Tom was coincidentally going with similar things in his footballing world, was the catalyst for what we wanted to do and kind of position our purpose moving forward. So through all that, there was also the pandemic. So what Tom and I were able to do really well was get into action straight away. So we didn't really let those type of things, be it football, be it health, be it pandemic, put a brick wall in front of us. We looked at it as there's actually a lot more time for us to actually act on all these things we've been talking about, and trying to find that vehicle that can allow us to give the give back to the purposes we're trying to chase in the sporting world. And obviously through our relationship and our lessons that we learned growing up, we feel as though we're in a privileged position to be able to have that the discipline and the work ethic and the networks to enact and position our product into a place that we're really happy with. So what we did from there, obviously looking at a beverage and a sports drink and a next generation sports drink, which we'll touch on in a second. The first thing we did to kind of quell our nerves and quell our there can be a lot of feelings of overwhelm or other like feelings that we reached out to mentors and people around us who had been through it. We're pretty lucky to have both the Phillips brothers who are on this call and leading this series pretty close to us to allow us to get feedback, as well as a whole bunch of other in the beverage industry mentors and further to that. So obviously touching on the product, which is the exciting part, we saw an opportunity in the sports drink space where we all have an idea of what a traditional sports drink looks like. They're high in sugar, full of preservatives, artificial colours and flavours in the plastic bottling, and consumers are shifting away from the traditional sports drink, which is evident in the facts and the stats that we looked at. Obviously with a low of 0.5% annual growth, which is the lowest sports drinks have ever had in 2020, there's a clear opportunity for functional sports drinks that do more, more functionality, more electrolytes, more energy, all this type of stuff with natural ingredients and low to no sugar, which is the opportunity we attacked, and we did a hell of a lot of research to perfect our product.
Yeah, and with that, I think touching more intrinsically with the product, and it's interesting when Anth spoke at the start of the call about Tim jumping on about talking about Jeff Bezos and the attention to detail with the product or the service, whatever you're creating. The attention to detail is probably something that we've really prioritized, and it's something that I really value personally when it comes to a business sense, and anything you do in whatever career that is. For us, it's we want to be close with our customers, that are our retailers, our distributors, the people that are going to help us actually get the product onto a shelf. But the attention to detail and what actually goes in to the end product really needs to suit the consumer, the end user, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be getting it in their hand and be paying for your product. So for us, what we've come to the conclusion with at the moment, and what we're going to launch into the market, is a drink that is refreshing, with all natural ingredients, with a coconut water base, with powered by B vitamins as well, and electrolytes that will hit that 600 milligram mark, which at the moment, and once we launch, will be a drink with the highest amount of electrolytes in the category, in the space. that hopefully, and everything that was surrounding our messaging and our communications around is, bringing that super hydration to enable super performance, whether that's in a sports sense, in your workplace, on the building site. We're targeting all of our marketing and a lot of our visual branding stuff towards sporting, sector, which is really important and where we're going after it at the start, obviously. But, with any product and service, there's a lot of secondary streams as well with where you target. So with that, the electrolytes are going to be powered by potassium mainly, with, sodium still, as they're the most important electrolytes, and then a bit of magnesium as well from that recovery point of view. And then antioxidants as well to fight free radicals produced during exercise. And probably the most important thing as well from a consumer point of view and a general point of view is that it's going to be lower in sugar and lower in calories. So it's going to have the performance aspects of the drink, but also the better for you aspect as well, cutting out the high amounts of sugar and carbs that get wasted in a way and probably aren't needed as such from the regular consumer exercising.
I think it's well said as well. Tommy alluded to, we took the time over the last 18 or so months developing the product. It took us 21 versions to get the functionality, the consumer taste, and the price point, which is another aspect, right? And all three of those things we feel like we're going to hold us in pretty good stead once we've released to market. But it wasn't overnight. It was a long time, which there was a lot of different things that were thrown in there that could have stopped us or made us think twice about what we were doing. But we, with that resilience and the ability to just keep focused on the long-term vision, allowed us to get through those issues and trying to believe in our ability to get it right.
And just with that, lastly, I think it's you need patience, but you need to combine that with urgency. You need that urgency to be able to keep moving forward and progress from a business sense and on your product, because you want to get into market as quick as you can, but things don't happen. And we learned this, things don't happen as quick as what you'd like. And there's a lot of waiting on third parties and a lot of externalities that's, are out of our control. So for us, it's been about being patient, getting the product right, not just going to market with the first thing that we create and just trying to get something in the market because we want to just sell something and try and get some revenue. It's about actually going the extra length, being composed and being balanced and patient with what we're doing, but being urgent about it as well. Another part of what we are about and what our product is to create a bigger vehicle for change. The ultimate mission and goal with this is to sell, in a way, a lifestyle and an empowerment for the next generation. So product aside and service aside, what we're actually wanting to do is promote exercise, well-being, health amongst a greater number of communities, and help sport and performance be a vehicle, and our product be a vehicle for change and for better change. So we're wanting to commit to a percentage of profit going towards our Super Boost fund, and we're still building that side of our business out, but we want to be able to have the capacity to give, creating funding and support through the provision of sporting equipment, putting on events, and then funding going towards education, registration fees for kids that potentially don't have the ability, or families that don't have the ability to enable that, and then longer term down the track, facilities as well to in a sports sense to help develop those communities and provide an economic benefit as well, which is really good. And with that as well, part of that triple threat in a way, the product, the community give back, and then the environmental focus as well. So many products, and I think the most innovative products and the products for the next generation need to have an aspect of this type of thing, whether it be looking at a social cause for the community that business is helping with within their commercial and corporate structure, or whether it is to do with helping the environment. So for us, it's a bottling. That's the most relevant thing. And, being in a plant-based carton, fully recyclable, and being free of the harmful type of plastics that are in a lot of different, competitor products as well, and made from renewable sources, which is really important. And we're not even perfect at that yet. So we're going to be in market a little bit with something that is pretty close to perfect, but we'll hopefully get to that perfection by middle of next year as well, when we're in 100% fully recyclable carton.
Beautiful. Really, yeah, it is very exciting to be different and do it for a reason. So obviously, I'll touch on. We're running out of time a little bit. I want to stick to the timeline, but we've got a lot of future innovation on the cards, and we're looking forward to where we can take that. But in terms of the September series and trying to take learnings from us, we're two young guys, as Anne said, trying to have a crack, and we're pretty naive, and I think in a way there's a lesson in that. Had you told us the things we know now 20 months ago, we probably would have had a really hard think about what we were trying to attack. Obviously, if you've got the big players in Gatorade and Powerade, who are owned by even bigger players and big conglomerates, it is there's some things that we have to battle through, and they've been the way they've been for so long that trying to change that and be different isn't easy. And I'm sure all of you listening in your businesses face similar types of pressures. And I think that's a big thing for us, is being young and being that naive gives us the ability to keep going and kind of do things differently, because we're not used to what's been done for a long time. And then another big lesson for us, obviously, Tommy's got a lot of pressure on him day to day in his football career, and we've learned that it's massive for us to take pressure off of ourselves by just believing in ourselves. There's a lot of times where we've felt overwhelmed, or the problem we're trying to solve or the opportunity we're trying to attack is really hard, and we don't know if we can do it. But if we just look back at it's a problem that's there, it's going to be solved one way or another, whether it's us or not us, and why can't it be us be the ones to make the product that's going to move the category forward? When you look at it like that, and you be naive about it, it kind of, if it's inevitable, it sounds a bit easier that you can be the one to push it forward. And there have been key learnings. And then we've had a lot of good chats over the past 18 months where there's been quotes we've been able to pull out, but two that have stuck with us, over that time that have driven us is, you don't need to completely reinvent the wheel. Just focusing on making our product 10% better than what the market has. It'll appear and feel achievable and easy, which although you've all got competitors in the space, and whether that 10% is on quality or customer service or product or taste or whatever it is in your field, for us it was just looking at, well, sports drinks have been away, consumers want a different product, let's just make it better, and don't overthink it, and that's going to hold us in good stead. And the final one, which we've all heard, and Andrew put it up last week again, is the bite off more than you can chew, and chew like crazy. And I think Tommy and I did that really well, and we've bit off a lot more than we can chew, and we're still chewing away, and probably won't stop for 5-10 years. So that's our favourite one, and Andrew will love that, but we love that quote. And then also the final one for us is, if something gets done today, we'll be better off for doing it tomorrow, no matter what that is at any level. For us, some days, Tommy's travelling, Tommy's in Queensland, I'm in hospital, whatever it is, just getting something done that'll make you better tomorrow at whatever level has been good for us. In terms of what's next for us, we're launching in November of this year, and working with the largest independent distributor in the country, and the distributors, and working closely with them, and in discussions with retailers now to get ranging, be it in November or February next year. And we're really excited by where we're heading, and we're focused on securing widespread distribution throughout the eastern seaboard to begin with, and then the wider Australian region. And we're really excited, and I'll let Tommy touch on the final. Yeah, exactly. And I think one more thing from me on that. I think this has been a passion for me and Zav in the sports space and sports drinks and driving performance and hydration. But if this is something that only me and him liked, and we didn't tailor our product or our service to
the wider market and really get that right. That's something that I think a lesson that we've learned, that we want to pack in all this type of stuff into a drink, all different ingredients, all these types of things, but it's what's actually going to work for a greater amount of people, and being a part of something that is greater change, and what's actually going to make the biggest impact on the next generation and the people that are looking at these type of products. So thank you for listening. Great to present that, and at the moment we're doing a lot of work with some strategic partners and looking to reach out and work and have discussions with investors and people that can work with us going into the future. So feel free to get in touch, and we'll leave our information and that sort of stuff
Beautiful.
after the call. But thank you, Anthony.
We'll pass to Andrew. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Fantastic. It's inspiring. This is part of why we do this, is to, really repay the faith Andrew and I had as young entrepreneurs with our business. And it is about having some experienced people on these calls, but also really highlighting some other businesses, which we hope to perhaps do in another series at some time also, like really highlight your businesses and get in a network that can really help each other. But great resilience. Always traveling in pandemic as a professional player, in hospital, heart, back injuries with Zav, so super resilience. But the big thing there, they've got a niche there. There's no doubt there's a society need, and Andrew and I really looked at that in our business. It's a need. It was a need of childcare that built our business, not just a want, a discretionary buy. It's I think in that the children doing sport and they always reach for mum or dad. It's not a water, it's a Gatorade or a Powerade or a very high sugary soft drink, or fruit juice. So I think it's a pretty smart project, and I love the fact they're already thinking of giving back and thinking of the environment. And I just think just fantastic young people starting their ideas like that. So we welcome back our resident specialist, Andrew Phillips, who's going to talk to us again. We've had a bit of a theme on exit strategy, and so he'll have some interesting points for us today.
Thanks, Alan. Do you want to pause for now, Anthony? Maybe go to Judd for the time being, and we'll see if
Let's be resilient, shall we? So I've been really looking forward to today's session, because today's session we're going to talk about doing. We're going to talk about how to be resilient. So a lot of people ask this question. They listen, they read books, they watch videos, and at the end of the day, it's about applying. So it's all very well to sit there and wax lyrical, but at the end of the day, value is in the output. Value comes from your ability to transform an idea, a concept into a reality. Like the guys this morning, it was really great to listen to Xavier and Tom. The idea was they created a concept, something that would value add, something that would be new, something that would be better. And then they applied their networks, their strategies, their intelligences, their skills, and then they created. And that was beautiful, just listening to them how they overcame their challenges and how they're growing. And I love listening to new businesses develop that way, because it's an extension of our own self. So today I'm going to literally break down the way we work, the way our mind works, and over today's session, next week's session, start to actually really show you how to take control. So I'm actually going to put up a little bit of a little image here so you can look at it. So the way our mind works, all right, the way the self works, and this is what's represented in the center here, is it works based on 3 different interacting principles. Thinking is number 1 up here. Behavior is number 2. And this one over here is emotion. Thinking has to be number 1. Our thoughts drive all actions, all realities for us, all outcomes. That's where we focus. We focus on what we think. We focus on how we react cognitively to situations. And the way we behave is the way that we actually produce an outcome from that thought. So thinking and behavior, 1 and 2, are very closely related. And when I'm coaching anyone, and you talk to the boys, if Andrew or Anth or any of the boys are coaching people, it's always about thinking and doing, thinking and doing. Now, you'll notice that I'm concentrating on 1 and 2, yeah? I don't talk much about this, which is sort of odd in today's culture, because often we're told or asked, how do you feel? How does that make you feel? Feel. Yeah? That's okay, but what I really want to present to you guys today is the idea that feelings and emotions are symptomatic. They follow, they don't lead. If, as I said to you in the early sessions, you spin this triangle, so in the end, emotions become number 1, you've got trouble, because you can't control the emotions. The emotions are a reaction from thinking and behavior, from external factors. So although we want to be happy and we want to be comfortable all the time emotionally, and we don't want to be stressed and sad and angry, we can't always dictate what the world is going to deliver to us. We focus on what we think and we focus on what we do. And working on those builds confidence, builds resilience. And in the end, you'll get the emotions that you crave. Now, it's not bad to be sad, and it's certainly not bad to be angry occasionally too. These are natural colors in the palette of emotions. What's not healthy is if we're too sad too often or too angry too often. The pursuit of trying to be happy all the time is dangerous, because in some ways it skews the palette of emotions. We're allowed to be a bit of all things. And one of the things to look forward to is to be happy naturally. And happiness has a height and a low, and that's natural. But at the end of the day, whether we're happy or sad, we continue to think and function in a functional, in a positive way. The guy Xavier talked about having those surgeries. That would have been really emotionally frightening, challenging. It would have been really cognitively compromising. Yeah, and it could have really blocked momentum. But in the end, they talk about focusing, channeling their thoughts and behaviors to keep the momentum of the business going. And that's really important. So as I'm talking to, write down questions, guys. If you have any questions for me, please let me know. And if I can't get to them this afternoon, or I'll try in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so this is the first thing that's really important. Thinking, behavior, and then emotions, a distant third. Okay, now I want to move on to talking about this little one here. Now what we've got here is we've got the past, we've got now, and we've got the future. And most of the clients, most of the people I talk to, I've found over the years, 30 odd years of coaching, 30 odd years of therapy and training, is that we have 50 to 60% of our time we spend thinking about the past. 40 to 50% of our time we spend thinking about the future. And only 2 to 10%, rough figures, of our time do we spend in the now. Now, this is really problematic because the past is often very emotional. If you stop for a second right now and you think about any time in the past that's easy to remember, it will almost certainly be attached to an emotion, which doesn't make it a bad thing. Now, same with the future. If you think of something in the future that you want or that you think is going to happen, it's almost always associated with an emotion. Again, that's not particularly a bad thing. The now, though, isn't necessarily attached to an emotion. The now is where we do things. So if we put more effort into the moment, into the now, into what I'm doing right now and what you're listening to and how you're reacting right now, it helps secure a better, more positive future. Like thinking and behavior leading to emotions, a really good, controlled, quality, effortful now helps lead to a positive future. So this should be really, we're looking at about, the stats I usually do, or the numbers I usually do, is about 20 to 30 here. Yeah, around 30% here, and 40 to 50% in the middle. mindfulness becomes an intrinsic part of every day. The way you drive, the way you eat, the way you move, the way you socialize, it's all done in a mindful way. And from that, you get appreciation. So I'm just going to keep moving pretty quickly. Here we've got VFL. Not a coincidence. Well, yes, it's a coincidence. Now, V stands for value. Yeah. F stands for feedback. And L stands for learning. Value. Value is what we believe we're worth. Yeah. The feedback comes from our body, comes from an interaction with the world. It's what it says to us that affects the way we think. And then lastly, learning. What we take from that, what we apply from that, and what we grow through and learn from that. That leads to capacity. Our ability to do, to make things happen, to be functionally resilient. Whether it's an individual level or as a business, this is still applicable. Value is seen as the interaction of two parts. It's seen as the interaction of intrinsic value and extrinsic value. Now, intrinsic value is what you believe you're worth. At any moment, at any time, you take a photo of yourself and you do a quick comparison between you and perhaps the world. This is a natural thing. Although people do say don't compare yourself, it's impossible not to. So I don't necessarily tell anyone not to compare themselves because they're going to anyway. But what I do tell them is to be balanced, all right? So intrinsic value is about what you believe you're worth. Extrinsic value is what you believe other people think you're worth. Those two parts working together create your total value proposition, what you believe or how you believe you stand in relevance, in balance, in comparison in society, which is a real issue at the moment because you look at social media, yeah, you look at a lot of these hyper-inflated or overvalued propositions, people that look so happy all the time and so great all the time and so successful all the time. It's rubbish, it's filtered. But what that does to us is when we're doing a natural comparison with people that we know and see, we deflate our value because everyone looks so much happier than we are, so much more attractive, so much more successful. And that causes a real dilemma for us because our natural value proposition drops because it's always comparative. So when I train people, when I teach people, we work through this and I show people how to rebalance this. Trying to move quickly though, we have this natural cycle here. Our intrinsic value, as it starts to drop, which sometimes it does because we make mistakes or we fail, yeah, we try and prop it up by using extrinsic value, by being kind to others, by being loving to others, by having others give us positive feedback. And that helps refill our intrinsic value. And this is natural. But a person who overly relies on extrinsic value, a person who overly relies on other people telling them how good they are, yeah, becomes very vulnerable too. They become very fragile because depending on who they ask and the mood that they're in, they could get an answer that they don't like. And in the end, that could cripple even more their intrinsic value, what they believe they're worth. When I have clients come to me who have extremely low intrinsic value, sometimes they're on the edge of being here and not. What I have to do as a practitioner is find a way of propping up, of increasing, of improving their value proposition, to give them reason, to give them relevance and purpose. And we all need that. And businesses are built around that. A good business is something that's relevant. Like the boys, something that provides an improvement. And that, as an extrinsic value proposition, feeds back. So the boys feel better about themselves. The better the business does, the better they feel about themselves. But what's most important is their intrinsic value, which is built slowly and carefully over an entire lifetime of failures and successes. So in that way, if they do get knocked back or they do fail, because we do sometimes fail, the best businesses fail sometimes, we're not critically damaging our intrinsic value and therefore losing our purpose as a person, because that's when we really start to get depressed. So depression, anxiety, and value are very closely related. You can make yourself incredibly resilient to all those problems if you have high intrinsic value. So to get high intrinsic value, we're going to talk about that now. So high intrinsic value comes from personally managing your life. So working through all the little assets, all the little parts, all the elements. And we're going to talk about that quickly. So I've broken that down to 5 elements. All right, nutritional, physical, cognitive, social, and environmental. And when I'm working with people, I literally go through each. And each one of those elements has a whole lot of little subcategories, sub-elements. And you build proficiency and strength, resilience in each one of those elements. You make each one of those little subcategories a project that you manage. So instead of just eating well because you don't want to die, or you want to, be able to look cute in the summer photograph, you're doing it to help build value, to help build resilience, to help you cope with the challenges that give growth, because challenge is the pathway to growth. We shouldn't be avoiding challenge, we should be rushing into it. So when we look at nutrition, we look at breath, hydration, food. When we look at physical, we look at posture, the way we stand, the way we hold ourselves, the way we express with our bodies, knowing that language, communication, is the interaction of 3 major parts: body, tone, and word. And the most important one out of those 3, apparently, body language. Second, not word, tone, inflection. Word is the 3rd most important. So what we say is important, but how we say it and the way we express it is the most important. So knowing all these things, making it your mindful project to get it right, to present the way you want to present. Because we can only see what a person can only see what we display, not what we think. So then when we move into cognitive, it's the way we think, how we react to challenges. We train ourselves to be good at this, to be balanced at this, to be positive at this. We make sure we've got enough sleep. We make sure we're strong enough so our body's feedback, our healthy body, gives positive feedback, because it's really hard to be resilient and positive, no matter how good the circumstance, if we feel a nagging ache or a pain in other ways, or weight or age, incapacity. So fitness and health helps create a positive feedback that inspires us. So I'm going to finish up now and just hand back to Andrew. But next week, we'll talk about specifically some training for this. Okay. Ciao, back to you.
Thanks, Judd. Some great things. You've got to get all that right before you can apply that in your business and life. So some fantastic insights again. We're going to switch to Andrew. Sorry, we lost him there before. Hopefully you're back, Andrew.
I hope you can hear me. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, my internet is unstable, but I will do my best. And here we go. I'm back on. Hey, thanks, Judd. That was brilliant, as always. And to Tommy and Zave, as I was saying earlier, I really appreciate the young entrepreneurs of today, always looking to give back and bite off more than you can chew like crazy is certainly one great thing. And also creating mentors. We were lucky enough to have our advisory board, and for all those listening, if you haven't set up mentors or an advisory board, I think it's imperative you do so. Somebody to present high to. We always thought each quarter we'd present to our board and come back with a series of actions, and it was wonderful to be able to do that on an annual basis. And over 20 years, it really made a significant jump to our business. I am going to share screen, and hopefully it's all working well there. And I've got some thoughts for today that I just was lucky enough to be given some quotes over the last few weeks. And given that we're building resilience and a number of different things that we're challenging through, Lao Tse said, to lead people, walk beside them. As for the best leaders, people do not notice their existence. When the best leaders' work is done, people say, we did it ourselves. Another one that was provided to me by Ryan Sharpley, a colleague, recently in one of his Masters of Business and Empathy courses. Happiness equals autonomy plus mastery plus purpose. Breaking that down in business: autonomy, freedom, flexibility, independence; mastery, development, learning, education; and the purpose for being, reason for being, mission and impact. And you can see through SuperBoost, they're looking at that autonomy, mastery and purpose. And I'm going to share screen now with Rob to show a short video that I loved watching on life. I am because you are, not you are because I am, from Father Bob Maguire on Ando recently. I'm not sure those who may have been able to see it, but 3-minute video I'm going to ask Rob to share with us now, which I absolutely loved.
Time I had a thing called the Father Bob Maguire Foundation, designed to do work on the streets and work with poor people. So eventually I was left not with a parish precinct, see, and daily mass and all that kind of stuff. I was left having to create this unfinished symphony, find the lost chord.
You found another way to help.
Had to. That's why I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Father Bob.
Well, but I would have thought that's our calling as human beings.
I love when you talk about helping people. You light up, Father Bob. You really, you love helping people.
Yeah, but because you see, that's the future. You see, don't curse the darkness, light a candle.
If you look at your life as a whole, would you say you've lived a good life?
Well, it's all I had.
Yeah.
You've got to make the best of what you've got, comrade.
Yeah.
You've got ingredients. There's the bloody bowl. Put the ingredients in the bowl. And you can't go next door for a bowl of sugar from Mrs. Bloggs. So you'll have to make a cake without sugar.
Yeah.
But it'll be edible. And that's the best that you can do.
What do you think is the key to happiness?
Helping other people to be happy. You've got a saying, I believe, in an African tribe, Ubuntu. What does it mean? Well, it means I am because you are.
Wow.
Hello?
Wow. Yeah.
Not you are because I am.
Yeah.
I am because you are. And therefore that puts everything in perspective.
Community, it's people with each other. Yeah. Fascinating.
I've got to look after you first. As Jesus said to his disciples, hello, put the other first.
When you do eventually meet God, what would you say?
G'day.
G'day. I love it.
I don't know, it'd come from them first. In the movie Babe, when they're holding up the cards, now all of a sudden there's a God almighty outbreak of applause. And I thought, hello, I think that's what it's going to be like at the end. You will get the ultimate reassurance of an outbreak of applause for your performance in life. And it'll come from who? I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be somebody, a bloody big crowd, like at the MCG. You're dragged out into the middle, eh? Ladies and gentlemen, this bloke has just arrived. And we'd like you to show your appreciation of what he did while he was on the other side of the bloody wardrobe. And you get 110,000 people at the MCG cheering and clapping their hands. Now, come on. What more do you want?
So I thought that would be an absolutely relevant video today. I was lucky enough to work with Father Bob over about 15 years, and his one-liners were absolute classics. But I am because you are, not you are because I am, And for those who are founders of businesses and helping others and colleagues, I know there was a lot of talk last week about how do we motivate, how do we build resilience. I just came across that short video on that show and thought it was brilliant. So we've not got many minutes to go for today, but as Anthony introduced, part of what we did last year, and I'm summarising, is the second part of exit from last week. And I will keep it brief in the minutes we've got, but considering the sales type. Is it a trade sale, 100% merger? Choose who to sell with, create competition. How do we value the business? Multiple of profits. It's not just your value, but the value you're adding to somebody else's business. Maintaining financial hygiene. Focus on profit and act as if the business is going to be sold today, every day. It might not sell for 5 years, 10 years, but act in a way that you're building resilience in your business, that if somebody came knocking today, you'd be ready. Normalise EBIT, increase profit number for significant value, and communication. So the campaign we used external consultants to sell. We tried to sell our business ourselves, but we really never know, nor could we extract maximum value. We did that for about a 4 or 5 month process, and the difference when we engaged Goldman Sachs was demonstrable. They were smart, they got it, they were market leaders in merger and acquisition, they were best in the world, and we were best in our business of childcare. So we loved putting us and them together. The work ethic, their back model, they knew every member across the world, across Australia. They were authentic in every sense of the word, their brand and their people. They were human and real. They worked confidently, confidentially, and for us always. We were never compromised. And I saw the 5 key successes to Goldman Sachs when we use them: research, reach, process, relationships, and competition. If you're considering selling, these are really critical parts of using external experts. What can you as a business founder do best? You can trust the process, pay well, passionate, confidentiality, hold your nerve, and keep your distance from the process as well. The communication, who was involved internally and how did we go about it? We had an executive and a senior leader management team. So we built that trust over a 10-year journey. We had an advisory board, CEO and CFO that were empowered to conduct all of our meetings. So Anthony and I weren't drawn into that process. We had confidentiality as long as possible. There's no right answer here, but we had code names used throughout so that the world didn't know we were selling, just the internal people. We had senior management presentations because they were the people that are going to carry the business forward. And unfortunately, we had some media links at the end. But in retrospect, the communication was clear and really handled professionally and transparently. Key learnings we had is that we always thought that if we were tapped on the shoulder, it would be better, but it wasn't. We actually shopped our business around in the end, and we got a much better value. Private equity, we didn't actually know in our boutique little cottage childcare industry that there would be any interest. But don't be surprised in your own business. Private equity may be circling. Watch out though, they're great white sharks. Our accountants actually gave us some poor advice. So we had a confidentiality breach. So we had to pivot at the last moment and change providers. So make sure you look out for that. We tried to sell our business ourselves. As I said, it was too hard. So we sold with the professionals to just maximize that value extraction. And I said, private equity, great white sharks, and watch out for media that can derail the business at the end. So we had ultimate success with Goldman Sachs. There were twists and turns along the way. It was literally down to the last hours of a 4-month process. I remember being on the phone to Anthony when an AFR article leaked on the very last day. And the result, by moving with experts, we more than doubled our result in 6 months from doing it. And we got a double bounce on the trampoline. You know that feeling, you got one bounce, but we got a double bounce by using experts and professionals. So in life, I guess one of my favourite quotes from David Park, and in life and in business, you get 9 kicks in the arse and 1 lick of the ice cream. With many kicks that we had, Ant, it was our final part of the journey was to get our lick of the ice cream, and that was me on the sale night, and we had a ball over 30 years. So I think we've come right to the end of today's presentation, and I've always sort of said it in the question room, in the chat room, there's a lot more to extract out than we can do in 10 minutes. So we'd be always more than happy to answer questions here and outside of this forum as people are considering this part of their business life. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks very much, Andrew. And it's been a big show today. We had a few little technical hiccups, as we all know, in Zoom. So apologies for that. Again, big thanks to Rob and Nikki for helping produce the show. Really great to have the young entrepreneurs on there, Tom and Zav, and hear their story. As usual, Judd, some really sound stuff in these times, still in this lockdown 6 that's extending. I think we can all get some info from that power now and staying in the moment and control what we can and really, just get that focus on what we want to do and reset ourselves for some exciting sort of goals out of this. I think that's really good. And Andrew, obviously, it's great to hear that side of it. And it was a big learning process. But for those on the call that are in those stages, I think a lot of people said to us early, what's your exit strategy? We've hardly started the business. So some people, it's like you're building a business, but you have an exit in mind to start with. I suppose ours came at, a short 30 years, but some of you may be a lot smarter than us and do it in 3 or 5 or 10 and build the value, using Judd's personal sort of information. And then, that theory of how you go about it that Andrew's explained that we went through was definitely a professional process, having experts do that. And it really, I think at the end of the day with us, it was the word trust, I think, wasn't it, Andrew? We're always humming and ahhing, should we do this? Should we go for that? Should we accept this? And it was like, trust the process. Let people who do their job best do their job. And that was Goldman Sachs, who were, pretty good worldwide sellers of business for us. So, I think do your homework if you're at that stage of your business. We have run out a bit of time today and Rob's got to get moving today. So we are going to wrap it up. There's some very good questions there, which we will carry over. And in the last session, not next week, the week after, we had the CEO of World Vision, who has traveled the world and is a great social change person, an activist, Daniel Wordsworth. So he'll be on. And we're looking to get next week also on the resilience theme, Samantha Gash, the ultra marathoner. And Stefan's looking at possibly getting another business group, the Drain Man, in. So hopefully stay tuned. We'll confirm the program as soon as we can. But from all of us here, a big thanks again. And I know Super Boost, there's some great questions there that came through for the boys. And I think Rob's put up the website and the contact point there. So I'm sure there'll be some good questions and some very helpful people there. Phil, thanks for your little network there. The boys might be able to follow up a little bit on that to help with their marketing. So, and Phil has a great business there creating Team App, which is used in just about every sporting club around Australia. Amazing, I think 8,500 members, he said there, which is just a phenomenal effort, Phil. Well done with your business too. On behalf of the group again, thanks again. We'll wrap it up and we'll carry over some of those questions and try and answer them with a bit more time next week. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.